Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Virtuous Jedi. Today we're going to be talking about all things annual receipting. So those year-end tax receipts, those things that have to go out in January every year, we're going to be generating those today. So I'm going to walk through the whole process for those receipts. It's a little different than the process for generating daily receipts or weekly receipts in Virtuous. We can do another video on that in the future, but today we're just going to be focusing on those annual receipt templates. So let's dive right into Virtuous. We're going to go to Gifts and then Receipting. When you land on the Receipting page, it's going to default to this Receipting Groups tab. This is going to be where you generate those daily or weekly receipts. We're not going to worry about this page today. We are concerned, though, with our receipt templates. So first things first, we need to have receipt templates in order to generate our year-end receipts, and that'll be a bulk of today's video. There are a few options that we have here, so let's look at those. When we click on Actions here, we can create a brand new template. Now, if you've generated receipts in the past, you maybe have a template from the previous year that you can just maybe modify a few things, change the letter content, things like that, change the date at the top. But for our purposes, we're just going to start with a brand new template. On the first page here of the builder, we have two options. We can either create an email receipt or a paper mail receipt. My recommendation is, even if you are going to send email receipts, that we start with a paper mail receipt, because as you'll see in a little bit, on the email builder, we actually have the option to use a mail receipt as a PDF attachment on our email. So it's better, chicken before the egg. We get the paper mail receipt built out first, and then when we build our email receipt, it's just a really quick process to link those two together. I'm going to call this my 2024 annual receipt template, and I'll call this one my mail template. I'm going to select paper mail here, and this is really important. Right here, we can choose whether this template is going to include multiple gifts or just single gifts. Multiple gifts is what we want for annual receipts, because we want to generate a single receipt per donor. So if a donor gave 5 times during the year, we don't want to generate 5 separate receipts for them. We just want the one receipt with all of their giving aggregated. Single gifts per receipt, that would be your daily, weekly receipt templates, where that donor, if they gave 1 time that month, they'll get 1 receipt. If they gave twice, they would get 2, that kind of a thing. So just make sure that multiple gifts per receipt is selected there. We're able to do paper sizes here. Generally, most of us are going to be doing something on letter, especially for your annual receipt templates. But if you do have some other paper size that you're working with, you have those options here. So I'm going to keep it letter. You can also use custom margins. So again, if you have a more custom configuration, or if you're having trouble fitting everything on a page and you can drop these down to maybe 1/2-inch margins instead of 1-inch margins, you can do that here. We can always go back to this page later and make those adjustments. So if you find that the defaults that you chose or what you thought you needed was not correct, you always can come back here and modify this. The last option here is envelopes. So by default, it's going to say don't generate any envelopes. This would be the case if you were doing window envelopes, and so you're just going to format the template so that the address fits in that window envelope section. The other option that we have is we can download a CSV. So what'll happen here is, if we need to do a lot of custom formatting for the way that our envelopes are going to be formatted, and the default Virtuous envelope formatting just isn't cutting it, we can download a CSV. So that'll give us a file with every donor and their address information that's going to be included in this receipting run, and then you'll be able to use that in a mail merge in Microsoft Word. And then the last option is downloading a PDF file to print those envelopes. So if we select this, what'll happen is, when we generate the PDFs for our receipts, we'll get one file that has all of the letter content, and we'll print that all on 8.5 by 11 paper in this case. And then it'll generate a second file that's formatted for a standard envelope, and it'll have all of the addresses already merged into that document, and you just send that to the printer. Again, we don't have a lot of styling options on that PDF. We're not actually going to be able to open a PDF envelope editor and change font sizes or font types or anything like that, spacing. So again, if you do have that more customized need, you'll be better off probably going with the CSV that you'll use for a mail merge. For my case, I'm going to use a window envelope, so I'll say no envelopes for now and go on to our next page here. Now here is a template library to choose from, but since we're starting completely from scratch, we're not going to worry about this page, and we're just going to click on next. And now we get into our editor. Our editor here is a blank canvas. It works a lot like a Word document editor, like Microsoft Word. The difference is that you're not going to actually see things like your margins and some of that custom spacing directly in this editor. It's going to look like there's no margins. You're just typing into, this big canvas. So that can be a little misleading at first when you're looking at this, but there is a preview option. So if you click on Actions and Preview, you'll actually get a PDF download that'll show you exactly what this file is going to look like when it is, generated down the road. So my recommendation here is that you at least get all your text and merge fields and everything in the editor first. Just get everything on the canvas and then download a preview, see where things are hitting, where the spacing is going, and then come back and make adjustments from there. One other thing to note is that this editor is a what you see is what you get editor, so you will be able to see if you change a font size, that font size will change. But using font size as an example, there are some things that are not customizable when you're looking just at the default editor options here across the top. So for example, my default here is 12-point font, and I have a 10-point font, but let's say I wanted 11, I don't have an 11 option. If you run into issues like that, you are actually able to click on this button right here, and that opens an HTML coder, and you can edit the code. For things like text sizes or font sizes, it's pretty easy to figure out how to make those edits, and I'll actually show you that exact example here in a minute. For other things, it might be a little bit more complex, especially if you don't have a coding background. So if that's the case, you may want to have a developer on your team help you, or reach out to a consulting service like Mayflower Creative that can help you do those more customized receipt templates and get into the code for you. Okay, let's start from the top here. I am going to insert some merge tags right up front. So when I click on this merge tags option here, I get all of the merge tags that are available. There's also this little circle with an I in it. If you click on that, it'll let you check out the support article that talks about merge tags and mail receipts. This list can be a little intimidating and it might not be worded the way that you expect it to be. So this document, you can read through what all the merge tags are and what they do. And if you hit Control F or on a PC or Command F on a Mac in your browser, you are able to do a quick search. So if I want to look up year to date and see what merge tags I have for maybe year to date giving, I can quickly search on this window and find those specific options. So just want to point that out. This is a helpful reference guide. So the first thing that I want at the top of my document is the receipt date. And I like the long receipt date. So you have the regular receipt date, that would be something like 12/31/23. And then the long receipt date would say, December 10, 2023. So we'll add our long receipt date there. Now let's add our contact name and our primary full address. Now this is a helpful tip. I've seen this happen in a lot of databases. People want to build their address block, so they'll pull in primary address 1, comma, primary address 2, then do a hard return, city, state, so on and so forth. You can do that. The problem with that though is that often in the case of address line 2, people don't have an address line 2, and you have to hard code that comma and space in. So if that address line 2 is missing, it'll look a little funny, it'll display funny. Whereas if you use the primary full address, Virtuous will look at the contact's address, build the entire block for you how it should be formatted, and you don't have to worry about any weird spacing issues or floating commas or anything like that. All right, so there's our top portion with our date and address. We'll add our salutation. So dear, and I like to use contact and formal name here. And then we'll paste in our content of our letter. So I'm going to use my friendly tool, ChatGPT here. I'm just going to generate some sample content. Obviously, if you are using ChatGPT, it might be a good starting point for this type of a thing. And then you can always refine down to your brand voice a little bit more, to specific maybe wins that you had that year. But I'm just going to generate some sample text real quick. All right, so now ChatGPT is pulling up this text for us to copy over. Again, I'm just going to copy this directly in for this example, but you would definitely want to modify this for your nonprofit. All right, there we go. I might want to insert a signature or maybe have my CEO actually sign these. So I might add an extra little line here. If I wanted to insert an image, I can do that from this section right here. And I would just click on upload, browse for an image. Now this image editor is just a little clunky. And so I find that using images in these templates is possible, but I would probably try to limit that just to make them easier to edit. So that's just something to be to be aware of. All right, so now down here, let me move my picture out of the way. Now let's go ahead and add our actual gift information. So I am going to insert a horizontal line just to give me some separation here. And then I'm going to write out your 2023 tax receipt. And maybe I want this centered. I'll do that. And then we have a couple options at this point. For some organizations, they want to actually write out every single gift that the donor gave during that year. They want a row for each gift. Other organizations just want to give the grand total of giving in that time period. Either way is fine. That's up to you and your organization, and I am not going to give you any accounting or tax advice. So whatever you determine is the best case, go for it. I'm going to show you both ways here. So we'll do the single line for each gift first. The reason that some people don't like this is because it gets a little harder to maintain your template, because for some donors, they just gave 2 or 3 gifts. It'll all fit on one page. Other donors, they're a monthly donor. They gave 12 plus times. Now you've got a document that runs onto another page or maybe even 3 pages. And that gets a little tricky when it comes to printing and making sure that everybody gets the right receipt. So it can just be, it could mean a little bit more work on your end, but it is not possible. So I'm going to go back to my merge tags. I'm going to scroll down here to the gift table. So this gift table allows me to generate a table that when we use this to generate our receipts, we'll get 1 row in the table per gift for that donor. And then we can choose the data types that are going to show up in each column. So we've got some options here. This is the default table, but maybe that's not what we want. So let's say my organization doesn't really do gifts in honor or memory, so I'm just going to remove that tribute section entirely. I just click into the tribute text here, and I select this delete column button, and that's gone. All right, so now if I want to add another column to this table here, it's pretty simple. I'll just click into where I want to add that new column, and I can either add it before or after using these buttons right here. So I want to add a new column before the amount field here. And what I'm going to do is call this one gift amount. I'm going to call this one deductible amount. So this would be the case where some gifts maybe had a premium attached to them. Maybe there was an event registration and $20 of the gift went towards event fees, but the rest of that gift were tax deductible. This is already formatted here for the deductible gift amount, so that would be the actual tax deductible nature of the gift. And then I can put in the gift total here. So if the donor says, wait, I thought I gave you $75, why are you only giving me a tax receipt for a portion of that? They can see that full $75 here. So we'll come back over to our guide. We'll search for amount. We've got a bunch. Let's find the one that we want. Be down here somewhere. There it is, easy, gift amount. So this will include the total amount of the gift, tax deductible or not, it's all gonna come in here. So I'm just gonna paste that in. There's no reason to go through the merge tag list here. You can just copy and paste from that help document. So that just might be a quicker way for you to find your merge tags. All right, so the last thing that we'll do here is we'll add their total giving. So we'll say total 2023 deductible giving, and then we can merge in the total deductible gift amount. So again, over here, we'll look for deductible gift amount. And when you see the word total in these merge tags here, it means it's going to sum all of the gifts in the receipt and give us a grand total. So we had the deductible gift amount, that's going to be each gift individually. And now we'll paste in the total deductible gift amount, and that'll be the sum. These merge tags can take formatting as well. So if I want that to be bold, I can just hit Command B or choose the bold selection up here. And then let's just select all of this and center it. Okay. So if you were going to go with the option 2, where you don't want a table for all the individual gifts, you just want the total amount that the donor gave, this is your solution. You just add this. So you just would not add the gift table at all, and you would add this language right here. Finally, we probably want to add our legal information at the bottom. No goods or services were exchanged for these donations, that kind of a thing. So we'll just go ahead and paste in some sample language there. Again, I am not your accountant or tax professional, so make sure that you are complying with the IRS and the guidelines for tax deductible receipts here. And we are basically done. So now we get to the testing phase. This is the part where we're going to go ahead and save this template, and then we'll go ahead and click on preview. When you click on preview, it's going to open in a new tab. Sometimes it takes just a second, and if nothing pops up, it may be just like my browser here where I have pop-ups blocked. So a little notice popped up here in the URL bar that said that this pop-up was blocked, but I can still show it. So just be aware that that may be why you're not seeing the PDF. That PDF just landed in my downloads folder on my computer, so I'm going to go ahead and open that up, and I'm just going to drop it into my browser in a new tab. All right, so now zooming out here, we get a sense of what this is going to look like. So the start looks pretty decent. Maybe we don't like Times New Roman. Maybe we want a different font. We can adjust that. We definitely probably want to change some spacing here. And this looks horrendous. And this is what I was talking about, where sometimes you can run into some issues here with formatting. So I'll show you a little bit of code here. Don't get too intimidated. It's just some basic math, some numbers that we're going to change. We're not going to be actually typing code. And that way we can modify this a little bit. And then, like I said, if you need more in-depth modification, you'll probably need to talk to someone who knows a little bit more about coding. All right, so let's add another space there. And then let's go ahead and jump into well, let's change the font first. So I'm just gonna hit Command A on my computer, or you can just drag and select all of the objects here. And I'm going to change this from sans serif to something else, maybe more in line with my brand. Let's try this. All right, now I'm going to go into this source code editor. And this is what I meant when I said it can be pretty simple to make some changes. So if we scroll down here till we find this table where it says gift table, that corresponds directly to this item right here. So you'll see that these are all set in widths with percentages. So when we're going to do math, we're just going to make all of these add up to 100%, but we're going to adjust some of those widths so that things like the date don't get compressed into multiple lines, things like that. So maybe let's see. So this is gift type. You can see that's this item. Gift type was pretty much fine. So maybe we'll do 20% there. We'll do 25% for our date. The amount is maybe 15%. The deductible amount we'll put at 15%. And then we'll put our projects at 25. Then we'll do that exact same thing again down here. So that first section is just the headers. And then this is going to be all of the sections underneath those headers. So 20, 25, 15, 15, 25. Okay, so now let's go ahead and preview this again and see if those changes made any difference. All right, so now we're seeing some difference, but we probably need to make a few more. So this is where you can kind of play, go back and forth, keep adjusting until you find the layout that works for you. With all that white space on the side, we probably are going to need to add some additional spacing. So we can go back, open up our source code editor, and maybe adjust the width of the table itself. So we can put that to 100% of the document, save that, and preview. And that's looking a whole lot better. Again, we still have some funny spacing things, so maybe you want to force this down so that the tax receipt portion starts on page 2. So we can come back to our builder, move my picture out of the way, add some line breaks here to make sure that that happens on page 2. If that's the case, maybe we don't need that horizontal line. So you see this does get to be a little bit of a experiment, you know, back and forth, playing around. Maybe we want this to be a little bit more of a header in that case, so we can, you know, make that nice and big and preview. So back and forth until you find the layout that really fits your needs. All right, so we're getting somewhere. This is a lot more usable than what we started with, right? So it is an experiment. It is not a tried and true method. And like I said, on images, you probably don't want to try to add your logo and things to this. It's probably simpler to just print this on letterhead. Otherwise, you go through that same process, but with, you know, the actual width and height of images and where they're going to land, and it can be a lot. Okay, so now we have a template that is set up for mail, which is great. So let's go ahead and save this and go back to our receipt page in Virtuous. Go back to our templates, and there it is right here at the top. We'll do the exact same thing again for email, and I'll show you the options you have there. So we'll create our template again. This is our 2024 annual receipt email. We'll include multiple gifts per receipt again, and this time we'll choose email. Here we have that ability, like I said, that we can attach the PDF receipt, and we can pick an existing template. So I can look up my 2024 annual receipt, and that means every time I send this email, the receipt that I just previewed with that PDF is going to be generated and attached to that email on a per donor basis, which is great. Okay, my subject line here, this will be your 2024 tax receipt. Okay, so that's all set up, and now we are going to use the visual builder to build out this receipt. You can use custom code if you have someone on your team that knows how to do that, but for our purposes, we'll just use the visual builder. Okay, so this builder will look very familiar to you if you're already using Virtuous Email. Same type of drag and drop builder. This is where you do have more options for styling and adding in images and colors and things like that. So I do recommend, if you do have those assets that you want to drag in, go ahead, add all of that in here, brand it to your heart's content. Unfortunately, you can't use your email templates that you've already set up for your marketing emails to kickstart this one. You're going to have to build all of that design from scratch, but it will be available as a template in the future if you want to reuse it for future email receipts. So I'm going to go ahead and upload my logo here. I'm just going to drag and drop it in. You can also click on the upload button. We'll click on insert. I'm going to resize this a bit. Just scale it down like that. And let's add a new row for all of my content. And that way we've got some more style options. So maybe we make the background here a big blue color. Content area is white. And we'll put a nice light blue here. Let's see, for the content area. So let's give that a nice little light blue. And then the same thing, we're going to go ahead and paste in the relevant donor information. So I'll go to my merge tags. We can do that long receipt date again. I do think that the merge tags are pretty standard between different parts of Virtuous, but I have run into issues in the past where I just copied and pasted and they were just a little different between the email and the mail. So I still double check and I just add them all from here. So we'll do our contact name again, do our primary full address, our salutation, dear contact informal name. Then we can add in another row here. Make this one that same nice light blue background color. And then we will add in the donation information. So this is where we don't have quite as many options as we do in the mailed receipt template. If we go back to content and we want to add in a gift table, kind of like we did in that receipt, the mailed receipt, we have this dynamic content widget, so I can drag that in here. And if I click on this, I do get some options for gift tables, but I don't get quite as much customization. So I don't get to change my titles of my column headers. I don't get to change formatting. I don't get to choose the columns that are included. So I can choose from this list of pre-built tables. But if I want to do anything additional, that's where that mail template comes into play and the ability to attach that as a PDF to this email. So if the case is that you need something beyond what's offered here, you would just go through the process to build a mail template and then use that as the PDF on this email, and then probably not even include a gift table in the body of the email. You would just say your receipt is attached, right? But I'm going to leave it with the default gift table, and I'm just going to preview so you can see what that does look like. All right, so there is all of my information merged in here at the top, my letter, and then my 2023 giving, and merged in like so. Again, no formatting options, so it's going to be left aligned. It can't be centered, all that jazz. So that would be the general process to create both of your templates. I'm going to go ahead and go back. All right, now I have both of my templates set up here. I have my receipt template for mail, my receipt template for email. Both of them are set up for multiple gifts per receipt. So we are good to go to start generating our actual receipts. The way that this is going to happen is going to be through the use of gift queries. So let's head on over to our query tool. We'll go ahead and create a new query, and this is going to be a gift query. So I'm going to name this 2024 annual tax receipt and save this. This query is going to be relatively simple. It can be as complex as you need it to be, and I'll explain some of those conditions here in a second. But at the very least, we need one line that says, show me all of the gifts that were made last year. So we'll say gift date is between January 1 and December 31st. That's it. That's going to show us every gift that's in our database for this time period and allow us to receipt those. Now, some people will have gifts in their database that should never be on a receipt template. Maybe they are attached to a project that's been marked as not tax deductible. Maybe the gift itself has been marked as non-tax deductible, and we don't even want to mess with those being on the receipt. So we can exclude both of those types of gifts. So for those individual gifts that we just toggle that check mark on that says gift is not tax deductible, we would say gift tax deductible is true. That means only include gifts that have tax deductible status. Same with the project. We can say anything to a project or a parent project that status has to be true for the tax deductible status for it to be included in these query results. Another thing that a lot of people like to exclude is maybe non-cash gifts, because those are usually receipted in a different way. You know, that's up to the donor and their accountant to determine the amount that is tax deductible for that gift. So maybe we say gift type is not non-cash. And you might see some other gift types in there that you also want to exclude from being receipted here or give a different type of receipt for. Again, up to you and your tax professionals, but that is where you would start to limit the types of gifts that are going to be included here. Another common thing that needs to be excluded, people often get gifts from donor advised funds or foundations, and they are not going to generate a year-end tax receipt to Fidelity or Benevity or any of those organizations. So the recommendation there is that if you have those types of contact records in your database, as long as you've put some type of tag on them to exclude them, you can just remove any gifts from those organizations. So you could say contact tag is none of donor advised fund, for example. Of course, you would have to do the work to add that tag in and then add the tag and keep that up to date with all of those contacts. But it's worth it at the end of the year when it comes to this, because it'll help you narrow down those results and not have to throw away as many pieces of paper or modify your PDF export or any of that. Okay, that's probably good enough for now for this example. Next step is going to be to view those results. This page is where all the magic is going to happen. So we'll see. For my database, for my sandbox, I only had 12 gifts last year. Got to work on my fundraising, but I can select all of those items. A good little rule of thumb is anytime that you have more than 10 results in your query results screen and you're trying to do some type of bulk action like this, whether it's receipting those gifts or doing some type of other edit, if there's more than 10 items, you're only going to select the first 10 items on that page when you click on this check mark. If you want to select everything, which usually you do, you have to click this right here where it says, do you want to select all 12 items in the query results? So I'm going to go ahead and do that. That way we know that every gift in these query results, on this query results page, is going to be added to this receipt template. From here, I'm going to go to Actions, Receipt Gifts. And I've got a few decisions to make here. I can choose the date that I want to generate on those receipt templates. So remember, we put that long receipt date merge field. This is what's going to merge in there. So we can backdate this, forward date this, whatever date we want on the gift receipt. The export option is always going to default to CSV. So if you didn't want to go through any of that process to create the templates inside of Virtuous, technically you could have done this all in Microsoft Word and just generated a CSV export here and then done it all in a mail merge. I recommend, though, doing it either through a PDF or email template in Virtuous, because then that data is actually stored on the contact record and you have a history of all of the receipts that were generated for those donors. You also now have the added benefit of being able to add that annual statement into the donor portal. So you'll see that here in a second, but you can actually link what we're about to do here with the donor portal. So let's go ahead and say this is going to be our print receipts. We're going to actually print off all of these PDFs, print them out, send them out in the mail. So I'm going to choose PDF as my option. Next, it's going to ask if I want to generate a receipt for the previously unreceipted and the previously receipted gifts. This is something that you will definitely see if you are generating daily or weekly receipts inside of Virtuous. It is very likely that you have already generated a one-off receipt for this, or at least an acknowledgement. You might not call it a receipt, but you use the receipt tool for it. You tell the donor thank you for your gift, and you give them their gift details. So if that's the case, Virtuous has already given that gift a receipt date and said this gift has been receipted. So what this is asking is, do you want to include anything that we previously receipted in this, or do you want to keep those out? For the annual receipt, you want to include everything that was given, no matter whether or not you generated a one-off receipt. So you're going to make sure that both of these are checked every time. Anytime you're generating an annual receipt, you want both of these to be checked. Then the next is we're going to show this in the donor portal. Now I can't actually select this yet because I've not chosen my template. So let's go ahead and choose our template. It's going to be our 2024 annual receipt mail template. If I click on refresh preview, this is going to show me the preview that I would see if I did an export in the actual receipt builder. So it's pulling in John Doe. It's never going to show you actual donor information. It's just going to say, hey, this is the text. Here's what the merge fields generally look like. Is this the right template that you meant to select? So don't be alarmed here if you're not seeing the donors that you see over in the query results over here. You won't see that until this actually generates. Now I can select whether or not I want to show this in the donor portal, and I can give it a title. So I can call this your 2024 tax statement, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, now when I click save, this is going to run the query, take all of the data in the query, merge. If there's multiple gifts from a single donor, it's going to merge all of those into one receipt template. It's going to run all of the math. It's going to merge everything together. And eventually I will get a PDF that will show up for me to download. You should get an email telling you that the receipt is ready. You should get a pop-up just like this telling you that it's ready. And if you lose this link or you lose the email, you can always click on this clover icon up here and choose downloads, and you will see that gift receipt hanging out in your downloads as well. So let's look at what generated for us. So here is my actual receipts with actual donor information in here. It's pulling in all of those different, 12 gifts, probably 12 donors in my database. And you'll see they all just had that one gift a piece. Now, if they had more than one gift, those would all merge in. Great, that's exactly what I was looking for. Let me close my friend ChatGPT there so we don't have so many tabs open. So that's the process. I would go through the exact same process if I wanted to email. So I would go back to my receipt template here, my receipt query. I would view results. I would select all of those gifts in the results page, go to actions and receipt gifts. But here, the only difference is I'm going to select email. And then I'll find my email template. Now, something to note here, if you mess up your PDF, if I had generated that PDF and looked at it and realized that, man, I need to make some adjustments still, I can't send it out looking like this, I can actually just throw away that, trash that PDF on my downloads folder, go back, make modifications, run this query again, re-export, no harm, no foul. The only thing that's going to happen is that the donor will have that receipt listed multiple times on their profile when you look at it in Virtuous, but that's not the end of the world, right? When you choose email, there is no back button, there is no undo. So I would recommend setting up the email template and testing it on maybe a sample gift or maybe on just you or a team member, your gifts in the system for the year, and make sure you know what it's going to look like before you do this for the entire database. Because when you click save, Virtuous will send out those emails. There's no chance to preview. There's no chance to undo. Save means send emails. So just be aware of that and make sure that you've tested thoroughly before you're sending any emails out through this receipt tool. Now, if I go to one of these contact records, I'll just show you where those receipts live. It's the same place that your daily or weekly receipts would live. If you go to giving, there's a receipts tab here, and this is the one that I just generated. So I can see this is in their donor portal. That's what that little icon means right next to the 14. I can see the template here. I can actually click on this and see the content. It's not formatted, in the PDF format, but it's at least the text that they would have received. So I do have that available. And then if I need to remove it from the portal, I can do that with these 3 dots. All right, everyone, Future Jonathan here. I was editing this video and realized there was just a couple more bonus items that I wanted to share with you. So if you stuck around this far, thank you, and let's dive in. So the first thing that I want to show you is what happens if you need to regenerate one of these receipts. So if you go to a contact, any contact in the system, and you click on these 3 dots right here, you can choose annual giving statement. This will let you choose a receipt template. That would be the same things that we've already created here. And then you can choose a statement year. So this is really helpful if your receipting does not really exclude anything. So when you build your end of year receipt queries, you just say, show me all of the gifts that happen in this time frame and don't exclude any of those gifts. I'm just going to receipt everything. This is great. This is going to assume that you want to receipt all of the gifts for this contact in this time frame. If, however, you find yourself in a more complex situation, you are excluding certain gifts based on project or status or anything like that, then you're not going to want to use this tool because you don't have the ability to filter what is going to be included here. So if that is the case and you need to generate a one-off receipt template, you can always go to receipts and just find the one that you already generated and download the PDF here, and you'll get that, fresh version, and you can send that out. Or if there's something wrong with this and that's why you're needing to regenerate, you can actually just grab the contact ID here. So right here after the contact name, these numbers right here are the contact ID. And then you can go back to your query tool and you could use your 2024 annual tax receipt query that you use to generate all of those other receipts, make any adjustments that you need. And then you could just add one more line here, contact ID is, and then paste in that contact ID. And now on the results screen here, you're only going to see gifts from that contact that match your parameters. And then you can go through the process like before, receipt the gifts, choose the template, all of that. And then that will generate a brand new version of the annual receipt with all of your extra filters. So just wanted to point out that you've got a couple options there depending on how complex your receipting setup is. All right, the last piece of bonus content here is for those scenarios where you don't want to send a print version of the receipt to all the people in your database that you have an email address for. So you want to create some type of segmentation. We want to send one version of the receipt, the email version, to everyone that we have an email address for, And then we want to send the print version to those that we don't, the people that we have a physical address but no email address. So we're going to go ahead and create those right now. I'm going to build a new query. The first thing that I need to do is build a filter query to identify all of the people with email addresses, and then we can reference that in our gift query to include or exclude. Since email addresses live at the individual level, I am going to build this query at the individual level. I'm just going to call this filter primary has email address receipt. And this way I can build that filter exactly down to the individual level, which is going to help us because in Virtuous, when you are doing any type of bulk email receipting, Virtuous can only send to the primary. It can't send to the secondary. So we need to make sure that not only does the contact record have an email address, but that contact record has a primary individual with an email address. So if there's a secondary with an email and the primary doesn't have one, we can't send an email receipt to that contact. It's going to fail. So my first line is has email. My second line is primary is true. So this query will show us all of the primary individuals in our database who have an email address, and then we can use this to filter out in those gift queries. I'm going to build one more, and this is going to be a contact query to filter our addresses. And the reason for this is there might be those really rare exceptions where you have a contact that does not have an address on file or has a partial address or something, and they don't have an email address at all. So in that case, we can't send them a print version, we can't send them an email version, so we're going to need to exclude them. So let's name this filter contact has address. And then this will just be one line. There's two different ways you can do this. You have the ability to do address is known. The problem with this is that Virtuous considers any part of that address being filled out as being address is known. So if you have a contact and we only know their city or only know their country and that's filled out, this is going to pull them in, and obviously we can't send if we just have the city. So what I like to do is address 1 is set. And that way it tells us that at least the address 1 line is filled out, and usually if the address 1 line is filled out, then the rest of the address is filled out. So that's a little bit more consistent of a way to find out if they have a valid address. You could fill out all of these so that city is also known or set, state is also set, all of those. But I find that usually this is enough. So I'm gonna save that query, and now we can go in and build out our variations. So I'm going to copy my 2024 annual tax receipt that we already built, and I'm going to call this tax receipt email version. And in this one, we're going to identify all of the people that we can email. So I can say, show me all of the contacts that are in my filter, which has email receipts. This one right here. And that's all I have to do. So this is going to only show me contacts where the primary has the email address and that they have gifts that fit all of these other criteria. So now I would go through the process of receipting like normal. I just would make sure that on this one, when I go to receipt, that I choose the email address receipt template for these contacts. I'll do the same thing again. So this will be my 2024 annual tax receipt mail version. And so I'll add back that line, but this time I'll say contacts not in our filter. So show me the people who don't have an email address, and also make sure that they have an address on file. So contacts in filter contact has address, and save. And then again, we go and view our results here. From this screen, we'll see just those. So you remember earlier when we ran the main 2024 annual tax receipt query, we had 12 gifts. Now when we run these, we've got 4 that are going to get a mail version, and we had 8 just now on the other query that we're going to get the email version. I'm not great at math, but I think that we're good to go. That would cover all of the gifts in the system. So when it comes to creating multiple variations of receipt templates, you could do this exact same process if you wanted to send a different version of your annual receipt template based on the type of gifts that people were giving to throughout the year. You could, set up several different types of templates here. You can set up lots of different types of ways to filter people. If major donors get a version that other people don't, and you've got all your major donors tagged as a major donor, that's another example of something that you could put in here to filter in or out of a receipt template. So there you have it. That is a couple extra tips there on how to generate those annual receipts. I know this is a long video, but there's a lot that goes into creating these annual receipt templates. Hopefully that was helpful for you. If you have additional questions, feel free to leave those in the comments below. And also, if you've got other ideas for videos or other questions that you'd love answered on this channel, I'd love to hear them. So leave it in the comments, send me a message on the website, and until next time, may the fundraising force be with you.